I was horrified. Honestly, like, my expectations are pretty low in terms of the quality of research, but I was horrified to see how little had been done. So I did find one incredible study, which was called the basically postpartum hair loss fallacy. I was like, I'm drawn to this. Why am I being told that I'm wrong? You're listening to the Science Baby podcast with me, Layla.
And me, Kim.
We're two nerdy mums who've researched the crap out of parenthood.
Seriously, you do not want to see our internet search histories.
Each episode, we chat about the why behind pregnancy, birth, and everything that comes after.
Because babies do not come with a manual, but with one born every minute, we will try and figure it out together.
Hi.
Yeah.
How's your week been, friend?
Good. I went out last night.
Oh my gosh, who the hell do you think you are?
I know, right? I am definitely feeling the effects of not going to sleep at 9. Other brands are available, but my Garmin watch had a right old hissy fit at me this morning. You had short, unregenerative sleep. Go and sit on the naughty step immediately.
Oh, that's amazing. Is it the first time you've been out in 5 months?
Sort of. It was the first successful out. Mm-hmm. I've had one time a few months ago that I had to be recalled back home for.
Oh gosh.
Because it just didn't work very well. But yeah, no, Stella's doing really well at nights at the moment. She's down all night.
That's amazing.
I'm touching all of the wood.
Please tell us your secrets. Is it the Calpol? Are you...
Ooh. What, do you mean night, sleepy sleep?
No, sleepy. Bye-bye, baby. Mummy needs a nice regenerative rest now.
Garmin says so. I feel like I must clarify for legality's sake that I do not give my child Calpol every night. Just the gin.
Oh, just the gin. Yes.
No.
My mum recommended creme de menthe, and I was like, I will not be giving my child creme de menthe for so many reasons.
Oh my goodness, is that why Felix has such expensive tastes nowadays? Is because he was just brought up on
exactly, yes. He's such a refined gentleman.
Oh my goodness, your mother has very discerning tastes.
Yeah, well, she is a child of the 50s. Did you have fun in your out?
Yeah, it's good. It was amazing. It's a village event.
Yeah.
With lots of village people, lovely meal, some good entertainment, all round excellent. Very pleased that we managed it. Stella stayed asleep.
Amazing.
I'm feeling like I've actually been able to do something I wanted to do. Jake is feeling like an excellent father because they did brilliantly without me in the house for a few hours. All good. All good. Everyone except Kim is feeling smug because Kim hasn't slept well.
Oh dear me. And when you say you weren't at home and in bed by 9 o'clock, what are we talking for in terms of late night?
About 1.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, early hours, which is very unlike me on the best. I mean, I don't know what got into me.
Probably not having been out for several months.
So I'm feeling slightly ashamed of myself, but it was good. It needed to be done. And actually will probably mean that I sleep responsibly now for a good few months to come because I will remember how it feels to parent after just 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And it doesn't feel great.
It's not great. No.
We all have to learn that the hard way, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're like, I can be free. I should not be free. I should not be trusted to be free.
Oh, God. How has your week been?
Good. So Felix has had a cough. It's one of these really annoying tickly coughs, but for the first 18 months of his life, he wouldn't take medicine. He hated it. But now he's realised that medicine is actually good for him. So he's like requesting in the cutest, hoarsest voice, medicine.
Oh, that is so cute.
I need medicine. And he's got really good at holding the spoon and having it on the spoon. It's quite sweet, actually. So, yeah. So we're going to talk about hair loss today, the hair loss that mothers and babies experience in the first few months postpartum.
It's really interesting. I've been doing some science this morning as well. I've been making notes on the amount of hair that I've been collecting in my hairbrush. It's really weird. I hope no one finds my notebook after a mysterious disappearance or something, because I've just got all this commentary about amount of hair and sketches and stuff.
Oh my goodness. I'm intrigued about this notebook, this writing down, because as they say, science without writing things down is just messing around. And so what sort of record keeping are you doing? Tell me about that.
So I've realised that my very slight hair loss has taken an uptick only in retrospect. So having noticed it and about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I have been, in the shower or whatever, noticing more than usual. So I've been looking back at my calendar and trying to figure out dates and sort of what that means postpartum.
You're not counting hairs in the hairbrush, are you?
I would have had we had enough time, I would have done that for this podcast.
But you
100%.
do have a small human to keep alive, so.
Yes.
Have you seen the woman on social media, social media platform of choice, who actually collects all of her lost shed hairs? She will collect every single one of them, and she puts them on a piece of sticky tape, and it's like basically hanging on her wall. And she's been doing this for like 2-3 years or something like that, and she has literally a full head of hair hanging on her wall. And I don't know what she plans to do with it, but yeah, she'll literally go around her house, and like every day her video is of her like getting the 20 hairs or whatever that she finds around the house and sticking them on a tape, and then brushing it all out.
That's much better data collection than I've been doing, admittedly. I'm simultaneously impressed and slightly unnerved
Yes,
by
it is.
the image.
It's strange, isn't it? It's almost like keeping your toenail clippings in a jar. Like it is technically just a part of you, but it is kind of like something which we do not need, and you do not need to be treasuring.
Yeah. So I've been doing some not rigorous science, I'm afraid, but it's still science.
I love it. Let's take it. That's where it starts. And as we will come to discover, it's not much worse than the actual science, bunny ears, that has been done on this subject. So.
Indeed. I have figured out that I think I started losing more hair than usual at about 4.5 months.
Okay. I noticed a lot of hair loss from myself postpartum, and for me it was about 3 months. I've always, because I've got kind of nearly curly hair, wavy hair, I try not to brush it very much because it goes frizz. So when I do brush it or comb it, which is like when I wash it, I tend to get a lot of hair comes out, and I do notice that just day to day normally. But when I was going through that kind of 3-month postpartum period, oh my god, it was handfuls. It was literal, like the sort of stuff that you do worry about, of just like, oh my god, it's like it's hanging between my fingers in the shower. I'd comb my hair in the shower, I'm like, oh my god, and then my hair would dry and it would look exactly the same. But I was fortunate that it didn't seem to have much of an effect on how my hair looked afterwards, but it was still quite a traumatic experience to be like in the shower, like, oh my hair.
Absolutely, because it's part of your identity, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you don't really realise until if you're affected by hair loss.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Did you experience a change in your hair when you were pregnant?
I did. I didn't notice it as much, but I suppose I would define it as I had more good hair days. Days where it behaved more, it was shinier, it didn't immediately frizz. And I don't know if this is in my head, but I feel like my hair has got curlier since having Felix. But I haven't yet managed to find a cause for that. So I don't know, they say that when you have chemotherapy, your hair can change texture, and that's the only time. But honestly, I feel like my hair has got curlier since having Felix, and I don't know if that's just reflected a change in how I care for my hair.
I've heard anecdotally the same story from a lot of people, an uptick in curliness following birth. And I wonder if that's a thing that people who are more expert in this area know. That, oh yes, of course, hair gets curlier after you give birth. And I was the same, actually. I didn't experience a pronounced increase in the fullness of my hair, but I definitely noticed that it was shinier. Because so I wasn't sure whether to expect hair loss postpartum, because I thought, well, I haven't, my hair didn't get any thicker or fuller, so therefore there's kind of no extra hair to lose. But I think probably both are still happening, just maybe not on the greatest scale.
It's quite an individual thing, isn't it? Because, oh god, hair's such a complicated thing that when I started looking into this, it's just like nobody has any answers about anything.
So what research is out there? What have you found?
So when I did a cursory bit of research, if you go on your health blogs and your product sponsored blogs and informational sites, you will find an explanation. But essentially, when you dive into the actual research that's been done, I was horrified. Honestly, like, my expectations are pretty low in terms of the quality of research, but I was horrified to see how little had been done. So I did find one incredible study, which was called the basically postpartum hair loss fallacy. I was like, I'm drawn to this. What is the fallacy? Why am I being told that I'm wrong?
Love a loaded paper title.
I know. It's how they draw you in. And it was a review, and a review typically in science looks at all of the available research that somebody can find and kind of weighs up the conclusions and the methods and sort of tries to compile all the research that's been done and say conclusively what they deem to be the case. And so this review from 2016 looked at all of the available research on postpartum hair loss. That would be the two papers. One from 2013 and the previous one from 1960.
Gosh.
On a total of less than 150 women.
Across both studies?
Across both studies.
Excellent.
Wow. So I'm not going to be too smug in saying this, but there are more people listening to this podcast in its first week than there have been tested scientifically for this phenomenon.
It's a shame, isn't it? My favourite part of the review was the slightly underhanded commentary on the quality of the data of those two studies. At one point, I think it says between pregnancy and postpartum, the same women were not studied or something.
Oh, wow. I missed that. That's fantastic.
None of the variables are being controlled.
So not only is it 150 women, they're just like, we'll just pick this random somebody with very thick blonde hair, and then we'll pick this other person with already known to have female pattern hair loss, brown hair. Who knows?
Madness. So we have no idea how these women's hair is changing.
That is scandalous.
From pregnancy to postpartum. I don't know if that's both studies, actually. I'm slightly being unfair. But yeah, it's basically the state of the scientific process for this area of study is not good.
Okay, so hair loss is not a big deal in the long run. And as we will see, it's something that is very temporary and probably doesn't have any underlying thing to worry about. So no, it is not going to be like the primary goal of funders to actually find that out, but it is a symptom of something which is much more prevalent within science, which is the underappreciation of issues that affect women in general. It is the undervaluing of understanding a holistic process of like the actual role of different body processes playing into each other, but also the fact that we are told stuff, as I said, you go to the internet and you say, why is my hair falling out? And I get a definitive answer. But that definitive answer is not underwritten by actual studies. It might be one study that found a relationship, but who's to say that their methodologies were right? Who's to say that those 100 people that they chose to look at were representative of every single population? So a message for always, whenever you listen to anybody spouting science, including us, is take it with a pinch of salt. Because there could be science being done right now that will completely blow everything we're saying out of the water. I'm going to get my tiny soapbox here and say, no science ever proves anything.
Oh, I like that. That's nice, isn't it?
No science ever proves anything. It provides evidence in support of it. And the more evidence you have and the better quality that evidence is, the more sure we are that our conclusions are correct. But there is no proof in science.
It asymptotes to 100% certainty.
Asymptotes. Approaches, but never quite touches.
One of my favourite quotes in science is that the theory of gravity is still just a theory, and that we currently cannot prove that gravity is not caused by this particular variation of the quote goes, we can't prove that it's not due to the giant flying spaghetti monster in the core of the earth pulling on us through tiny little strings. Can't prove it isn't the case.
Fantastic.
Probably isn't, but it's not how science works.
On that subject, I got a very nerdy news alert that said that they are now rethinking the theory of gravity, and it is definitely spaghetti monster. No, it's not. It's they're thinking of it in the same way that we think about magnetic fields, which is quite cool.
Oh, cool. Oh, I guess, yeah, because we're still trying to sort of figure out how the Higgs boson works
Yeah.
with respect to gravity,
So
aren't
they
we?
were basically trying to replace the whole idea of curved space-time, which is your bowling ball in a trampoline model, with an idea of like circling magnetic fields.
How interesting. Next week on The Science Baby, the theory of gravity.
The theory of gravity, just taking it bit by bit. Hair loss, not the biggest deal in the world, but chronically under-researched. Absolutely chronically under-researched. And one of the lines in that review which drew me and immediately triggered me, and I'm not a big fan of the word trigger, but I was like, it prickled my mother senses, was that essentially, and this is the basis for the inflammatory title, could it be a real phenomenon, or is it just a result of the psychological stress that a new mother is going through?
Oh no, my ovaries have gone hysterical again.
Oh no, I'm so hysterical. You can see it. Postpartum, your body, your mind, everything about you changes. And, you know, you might, as a mother, find hair loss to be unduly stressful during that time, because it is yet another way in which the your own person, your physical person, has changed out of your control. And so that obviously there is an element to that. But please don't dismiss genuine physiological symptoms, genuine physical changes as, oh, well, I think it's just worse because I'm a bit stressed about my flabby tummy.
That's absolutely true. And I think it's easy to jest. I suppose it's also a really interesting case of how stress can affect the body in weird and wonderful ways. You know, we do understand that stress can drive and contribute to hair loss. And as soon as stress or anxiety becomes involved in any pathology, I guess, it's a slightly dramatic word, but as soon as that gets involved, it's just utterly impossible to unpick from more physiological drivers. And so that's what potentially one of the reasons why these waters are so muddy. And the point is, this is a really chronically under-researched area. We are going to go into why it makes sense that we may lose hair postpartum, but it's worth thinking that actually, like you say, there might be a finding in the next few years that blows it out of the water, because we are kind of, in this episode, we're looking at the established science of how hair works and saying, well, it makes sense that this might happen. And it's fun to explore, but yeah, I mean, as soon as it's just such a complicated set of feedbacks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hormonally, seasonally, turns out. Interesting. Yeah. We'll get to that. Yeah, very, very complicated. So, how does our hair grow?
Mary, quite contrary. How do your short and curlies grow? So, hair grows from our skin, which is why it doesn't hurt when we cut it, because the growth is all happening right there inside the skin, inside the hair follicles. And basically the follicles are these like hair factories, and the hair material is produced in the follicle and then pushed out. And so the longer a hair is growing, the longer it will end up being physically. Depending on hair texture, our personal genetics, we'll have between about 80,000 and 120,000 hairs on our head, so average about 100,000 hairs on our heads. And that hair is continually going through a hair growth cycle in which it has a period of growth, it has a period of resting, and then it falls out, basically. And on average, out of those 100,000 hairs that are growing on our head at any one time, about 100 of them will be ready to fall out every single day. So that contributes to the crazy lady who's collecting her hairs every day as a normal thing. It contributes to the natural accumulation you'll get on your hairbrush, or if in my case, constantly on my clothes. I love wearing black, but my poor husband is constantly picking blonde hairs off my black clothes because it just comes. Look, there's one there right now. There, you see it? Do you see it? Yeah. There you go. Guess what? I didn't brush my hair this morning. There it is. Anyway, so that is happening naturally. So the hair growth cycle, they've got scientific names. So you've got anagen, which is the growth phase. That lasts between 2 to 6 years. So a single hair will spend 2 to 6 years growing, and it will just grow and grow and grow. So that one hair, as long as you don't pluck it out or it doesn't get ripped out by, for example, and not at all speaking from experience, a motorised toy train being driven through your hair.
Oh, that's a memory to remember, isn't it?
It was a particularly unpleasant nappy change, and I was like, he was so unhappy. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let you drive this train across my body and hair until I discovered that it had stopped in my hair, and we did have to do a bit of a surgical procedure. Anyway, so a single hair will spend between 2 and 6 years growing in this anagen growth phase, after which it will enter something called catagen, which is a transition phase where basically the hair follicle is kind of shrinking and saying, okay, I'm done making new hair stuff. That takes about 3 weeks. And then the hair follicle and the hair that's attached to it will go into a resting phase called telogen. And basically the hair is just kind of sitting there, just like not growing, not doing anything else, but still being held by the follicle. That lasts for approximately 3 months. And then the hair falls out naturally. And so that is happening kind of at random across the whole of our head at all times. At any one time, about 90% of our hairs are growing. And then once a hair goes through its transitional phase and resting phase and falls out, then a new hair can start growing again. So that's kind of the natural process. And that's pretty well documented. But then different conditions of hair loss have been studied in different ways. And sort of this diffuse hair loss where you're not losing a big patch of hair at any one go, but you're just increasing the amount of hair that you lose all across your head, is called telogen effluvium.
This process we know is modulated in some capacity by hormones, right?
Yeah, everything in the body is modulated by hormones. Like, it's crazy how much of our bodies is sort of at the whims of the ebb and flow of hormones. And if anything defines pregnancy, postpartum, the whole kind of becoming mother period, it is hormones, right? So the growth of your child is stimulating by pregnancy hormones like progesterone and estrogen, and it is known that estrogen affects hair growth, and so it's thought to be the estrogen in our bodies that contributes to the amazing pregnancy hair that many women report. So what the estrogen does is believed to keep the hair in the anagen phase, in the growth phase. So where a hair might be reaching the end of its 5-year growth journey and would be ready to go into transition and resting phase, the presence of more estrogen circulating through the blood vessels in the skin would keep those hairs in the growth phase. And so it will keep the hairs growing for the period of the pregnancy, so for the 9 months. And so that is thought to contribute to why our hair gets thicker, lusher, better, like it's just keeping growing, it gets longer. And I guess with everybody's different hair texture, it is going to change, like everybody's going to experience that in a different way. But then once the baby is born, immediately your estrogen levels plummet. They just go through the floor, and that causes a whole host of other issues, amongst which it's stopping fueling that growth phase in the hair. And so all of those hairs that were sort of kept, if you like, if they're forced to keep growing by the presence of the estrogen, are now free to go back onto their normal clock, free to go back onto their normal time lane, onto their normal growth cycle. And so if you can do the calculations, you know, if you're going to be on average losing 100 hairs a day, that's 100 hairs a day that might not be entering, that might be held back during pregnancy. If you think about it, across 9 months of pregnancy, that's if you do 100 hairs a day that you would ordinarily lose, times the 9 months of 30 days, you get 27,000 hairs that are essentially held back from their natural shedding. It's probably not all of them. Generally, we can't expect it to be all of them, but you know, a good portion of 27,000 hairs that are held back. Now, considering that you've got 100,000 hairs on your body, that's almost a third of your hair. So it's not going to be that much, but you know, the back of the envelope mathematics. So essentially, once the estrogen drops, as the minute your baby is out, that's it for those hairs. They're back on their normal life cycle, and they can start entering that transition phase. Transition phase lasts a couple of weeks. plus, and then you go into the telogen phase, the resting phase, and that lasts a few months. And all of that is coincident. All of that adds up to about 3 months postpartum. Your hair will start coming out at a higher rate than it did before, because all of that hair has essentially been held back, and now it's free to go back to its normal thing and also start to fall out. Again, it's not all going to happen at once, but there's a good chance that a lot of it is going to be coming out in a big chunk within a few weeks, essentially, a few weeks or to a few months.
And all of this makes perfect biological sense and follows from pretty much first principles, I think it's fair to say. But with what we know about how pregnancy hormones can look different, from mother to mother, and how the changes can vary in magnitude and timing, by quite a large amount. Some women have, that estrogen drop and the associated, mental health changes bang on day 3 after having their baby, and they know exactly when it's coming and exactly how it's going to feel, whereas some women don't feel it at all. And pair that with, the uncertainty and the amount of hair that you are going to retain and your hair habits, how that varies from woman to woman and how much hair you're going to lose as a result of that. And we can kind of start to see a picture of potentially why the data on this postpartum hair loss is so lacking, because actually there are so many variables that we need to start controlling for. So I'm starting to think actually it's a wonder that there's any statistical significance in it at all, given how little has been done. So it's crazy, isn't it? It's really, and add to that indeed the stress, which hormonally is an absolute shit show.
To put it mildly. Yeah. I found it particularly galling that about 3 months was the time that I was finally beginning to feel human again after a very long post-birth recovery, and that rabbit in the headlights time of newborn, oh my God, I've got to keep a tiny baby alive. About 3 months, I was like, okay, I think I might, oh no, now my hair is coming out, fantastic. I'm interested in whether our experiences, like you say, you said that you didn't experience it in as much of a visceral fashion as I did. I wonder if it's affected at all by the fact that you're still breastfeeding and that I essentially stopped lactating after a couple of months and yet you're still continuing. Do you think there's any value in that?
Potentially. It's something that I immediately thought about when we were learning about this and the role of estrogen in part governing your hair. Because so essentially what's happening in my body most likely is that I'm keeping my estrogen levels relatively low by continuing to breastfeed. So I'm kind of keeping my natural monthly cycles at bay still.
So it could be that by continuing to lactate, you have essentially had a more, if you like, controlled, keeping it within certain levels of estrogen. Whereas my experience is one where, having stopped lactating, my estrogen levels returned to quite a wildly varying monthly cycle. I'd be interested to know how that affects follicles, but I don't actually think it's well understood at all. But I did find a paper that found a small link between the amount of hair loss and lactation, basically, and found that the hair loss was slightly less if you were still lactating.
Interesting. And again, the processes and the hormonal cycles involved in lactation add a whole nother layer of variation that it will be really difficult to control for if we're trying to look for a signal here. So that's really interesting. The most amazing thing that I learnt, I don't know why I'm surprised by this, but my tiny little mind was blown, that we shed hair seasonally like other animals, which shouldn't be a surprise because we are primates.
We are animals.
But yeah, there tends to be a peak around spring and autumn. So what?
In hair loss or hair growth?
Hair loss.
Okay.
So it's like a shedding. And again, I'm not sure, this may not be the consensus, but it's kind of something that you hear about a lot, and it may again be mostly anecdotal. But it did make me think, because we are recording this in the autumn. So I, in theory, if that is a thing, I would have just be emerging from that peak hair loss period in my year. So that may well be a factor for me, potentially. So maybe I'm just shedding my summer coat.
Whereas for me, my peak postpartum hair loss period was the summer. So if anything, it should have been lower, according to your seasonal cycle. Very interesting.
One thing that you told me that blew my mind again was that Stella and I may be undergoing hair loss at the same time.
Together,
Which is madness.
It is mad, but it just shows how connected you are in soul, body and soul.
Oh my God, we're so in sync. So that is happening. So Stella was born with a lot of hair, a very long hair as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
Hair so obvious that they saw it on the scan.
Oh, that's so cute.
Which I didn't know they could do, which is incredible. So she was born with a lot of hair, very long. It's still very long, but it's becoming sparser on her head, and she is getting that, back of hair rubbing square where she thrashes around in her sleep. But yeah, so she looks like a wizened old sage at the moment, because she's got very sparse, very long hair that sort of wafts in the breeze.
A very Einsteinian image. Yeah,
she's very advanced in the physical sciences.
Yeah, Felix had the same thing. He was born with a lot of hair, dark hair as well. So he took after his father in having quite greasy hair, so it was sort of plastered to his head, more unwashed savant.
Unwashed savant. Yes. That's a glorious description of your firstborn son.
And it was dark as well, so it was really very unforgiving. And yeah, exactly the same thing happened. He started to... Everybody commented, oh, hasn't he got a lot of hair? Hasn't he got a lot of hair? But then it all fell out and it was very embarrassing. And then now it has grown back golden and still a little on the greasy side.
And so why would our hair loss be happening at the same time?
Because you are basically in sync. Baby grows inside of you, fueled by everything you give them through the placenta, intentionally and unintentionally. And one of the things that does pass through the placenta are hormones. And so your baby is subject to a lot of the hormone rises and falls that you as a expectant mother experiences. So while they are growing in the womb and your body is flooded with estrogen to help them grow, their body is also flooded with estrogen. And that, as it is fueling your lush hair growth, it's also fueling their hair growth. Now, this is, again, one of those things where individual differences are quite prominent. And we don't know why, but some women produce more estrogen than others during pregnancy. And, clearly it doesn't matter because their babies still grow perfectly normally. But it's thought that higher levels of estrogen in the body contribute to hairier babies. Interestingly, there has been a link found between estrogen and the amount of heartburn you experience as well. Did you have heartburn in pregnancy?
Very occasionally, yes. Okay. And I was asked on a number of occasions, oh, yes, well, your baby will have a lot of hair then. Mm-hmm.
It is one of the very few sort of folk tales that has borne out with slight statistical evidence in support of it. So, and it's because estrogen also loosens sphincters. This is something we can get into at a later date because I feel like it deserves its own whole unpacking. But
it's a whole unpacking.
The whole unpacking, yes. Okay. The muscles that hold your stomach closed at the top, estrogen makes them a bit flappy. And this is why stomach acid can escape out. But it also, as estrogen also helps hair growth, as we said in our hair, but also in our baby's hair, because the estrogen passes through the placenta into their body and it helps their hair grow. When a baby is born, they are severed from that mother's supply of estrogen. So baby doesn't produce their own estrogen, and they experience the very same drop in estrogen-powered hair stasis, if you like, and the hair that had grown upon their heads during that time of suspended growth, if you like, that then enters into telogen, and 3 months later, it is prone to falling out. And because typically babies don't have a standard hair care regimen, they're just kind of lying around, not doing anything with it, they might lose their hair in a more obvious and patchy way than we do, because literally they're lying down and scraping their heads all over the place. We used to wake up to find it was like a fur, like a shedding dog fur on Felix's next to me cot, and it was quite disturbing. because he had dark hair. You've just got this like little, because he just worn his hair off.
So cool. So you're both on the same ticking clock,
Pretty much.
basically.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's, I'd always wondered, I assumed it was driven by genetics, that, a baby will just have some, proto hair that resets once their genetics kick in.
Well, essentially that's what it is. It's just the timing of that reset is thought to be determined by the hormone changes, because when they're in the womb, a baby's proto hair is designed to grow all over their bodies. It's called lanugo, and that's supposed to trap like the waxy stuff and basically help them stay warm inside the womb, keep their body temperature steady inside the womb. But once they are out and their actual hair follicles, their grown-up hair follicles, if you like, start kicking in, that's where the genetics come into play, and they get the hair texture, hair colour, hair growth rate and thickness that they can expect as an adult. That will start after that proto hair, the lanugo hair, is got rid of, and that will happen on a normal cycle, but it will also be accelerated during that 3-month period.
And presumably it takes a little while for the genetics to establish, pigment deposition as well. You've got, so that's why a lot of babies tend to go darker with time, probably more so in Caucasian communities where it's more obvious. But, you've got these genes, kicking off the, the pigment in your eyes as well, in your skin and in your hair. And that does take a bit of time. We're finding that Stella's hair is lightening at the moment because her proto hair was very dark, like Felix's. So she's gone through a distinctly ginger phase.
Oh, yes.
And she's actually, I'm sad she's becoming more blonde now. I wanted her to stay, but no.
Yeah, Felix had a ginger phase, and I didn't understand it because, genetically, there's not really any ginger, except for occasionally Doug in his beard has got a few little golden hairs. So there was a phase where hair-wise, he didn't look like either of us, but that's now lightened to kind of quite a nice golden blonde. But I think long-term, it will I suspect it will darken because my hair is naturally darker than this, and Doug's got quite dark hair. So I'm very much enjoying this period of golden hair, but very much expecting it to change because, like babies are born neurologically underdeveloped, so much of their body processes are, and it makes it sound very mechanical, but so many of their body processes aren't switched on when they're born. Their sweat glands aren't switched on, so they don't sweat early on. They don't shiver early on. They're, like you say, their eyes only darken after a period of time because production of the pigment in their eyes only switches on later. And as with hair, those follicles, which are ultimately responsible for everything the head of hair will end up looking like, they don't really get going until, it's a years-long process before they're fully established as adult hair follicles.
They're still spinning up. Humans take a while to spin up, don't they?
Spin up, yeah.
I think I'm still spinning up, to be honest.
I feel like that's quite a dated reference now. With solid-state drives and instantaneous quantum computers.
Oh, God, I feel like I've just been boomered.
Sorry, yeah.
Hey, millennial, with your talk of floppy disks and dial-up internet.
Floppy sphincters and floppy disks. Yes, very nice.
Oh, lovely. lovely. It's not a Science Baby podcast unless we've talked about sphincters at least once.
So what should we do about hair loss in ourselves and in our babies?
Don't worry about it.
The end. That's it. That's all you need.
That's it.
Yeah. My hairdresser told me that I should shave Felix's head when he started to lose his hair. She said it would end up making it grow back thicker. And obviously I had to Google it. And no, there is no evidence that is the case because... Shaving your hair does not affect your follicles in any way. It can't stimulate them to do anything. All it will do is make the ends of the hair blunt, so it might feel thicker, but there won't be any more hairs and it won't change how fast they grow. So if you want to shave your baby's head, do so, but it won't change the outcome.
So it's a bit like when we shave our legs and then we have to shave them forever more because it grows back thicker, but actually it's just because you've blunted off the end.
Do you know what the sad thing is? Felix won't sit on my lap now if I don't have trousers on because he's like, Mummy is too scratchy. And I'm like, oh, wow, I feel like I need to make more time for self-care.
Yes.
Because my child will not sit on my scratchy, shaved legs. Yes.
Oh man, like how self-indulgent of you to actually have a shower that lasts more than 40 seconds though.
No, not acceptable. Not acceptable. Yeah, don't worry about it. In the vast majority of cases, as far as we know, postpartum hair loss does exist. I mean, anecdotally, the weight of it does exist in one form or another, but it is transient. It is part of a natural hair growth cycle, and if you are the sort of person that is going to develop any kind of hair loss condition later on, it might highlight that. You know, if you find yourself losing hair in patches rather than diffuse across your head, it's probably something you want to talk to somebody about. But in the vast majority of cases, it is just a transient kind of dumping of hung onto hair, and it will resolve itself in time as we begin to feel more human as mothers in time. So yeah, there is nothing you need to do about it. Try not to worry about it, and don't put a hat on your baby if you're embarrassed.
Just in general.
That's what my mum did. When all my hair fell out as a baby, she was horrendously embarrassed and invested in bonnets.
Oh, goodness. How very retro. It is also, a lovely sign, an outward sign of how you and your baby are in sync, which I think is lovely. That's going to be my take home from this episode.
That is a much nicer take home than just buy a hat. That's it for this week's episode of the Science Baby Podcast.
We're curious to hear about you and your baby's postpartum hair changes.
Join the chat on Instagram or find this and every podcast episode at thesciencebaby.com.
See you next time.